Guys, welcome to Pass the Syrup, the first episode, episode 1 of our new podcast, part of the Agents Movement Initiative. The Agents Movement Initiative is quite simply an entertainment-first platform. It's run by agents for agents. It's a light-hearted look at what's going on in the world of a state agency. And what we're doing is starting with a podcast, Pass the Syrup, because there is so much waffle floating around the world of a state agency. We need some syrup to digest. So today, my esteemed guests, first up, we have Steph Walker. Now, Steph, 20 years in the state agency this year, part of the Agency UK, very, very sexy looking branding, great business. If you do not follow Steph on LinkedIn, she is the most outspoken, argumentative, fantastic LinkedIn commentator I think I have in my followers. She's also, basically, if my mum was born 40 years later, Steph is what my mum would be on LinkedIn. So I'm a huge fan. Steph, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. Excited to see what lovely conversations we're going to have today.
Lovely conversations. That is what we're after. Lovely conversations. Straight away, there's some waffle. There's some waffle for you right there.
That was waffle. Yeah, absolutely.
Next up, we've got one of the Baldock brothers. Now, my show notes say funny, charming, intelligent, but I think it's because I started looking into Neil. We've ended up with Matt. You know, there it is. Yeah, standard stuff. He hears it all the time. Neil is the funny one. Neil is Neil was the guy we wanted. But in seriousness, one half of the Baldock brothers, fantastic business in Essex. Charles David Casson. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. How's it going?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, Ben, and thanks for the 10 minutes notice. I obviously wasn't your first choice of guest, and you had a panic because someone dropped out, but here I am. There's no waffle, no bullshit for you.
And that is why Matt is always everyone's first choice reserve. Always. First choice reserve. He's always available.
Even my mum's.
Well, yeah, I mean, she has said that to me in the past, but that's probably something else we talk about. And last up, we've got, lots to say about Steph, lots to say about Matt. What can I say about Vish? Yeah, I don't actually know. I got not a lot. He's sitting in a cafe. He's known for weeks that he's going to be on episode 1. He knows that he needs to get himself sorted out. We're 20 minutes late starting because he can't find somewhere to sit. We call him Handsome Vish, Mr. Luxury, Fine and Country, Fulham, Southwest London, and he's got the tallest hair in a state agency. Vish, how's it going?
For the height, I'm 5 foot nothing, so I had the height from somewhere.
You are, you're a nicely packaged, sort of nice small package. Which I've heard you described in that way before.
Charming. All
right, so guys,
I don't want to be controversial. Can I just note though? There are so many male estate agents who do suffer with a height scenario. Like most male estate agents I know are on the shorter side of life.
Really?
Well,
is this just a thing? I don't know.
Straight in with the waffle again. She doesn't want to be controversial, but except that's exactly what she's trying to be. Matt, how tall are you?
Tall enough. I think.
Let's do a poll.
I think suffer was a little bit of a strong word there. You don't suffer with height, but no, there are some short men in the state agency. That has been noticed. I am the short.
And I wasn't saying that height is not relative to talent. I'm not saying that. It was just an observation.
The agents have got little man syndrome, is what you were saying.
Also that. You don't need to be a man or short to have that syndrome in this industry, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is prevalent, though. It is rife. There is a angry little person syndrome floating around a state agency, and you're right, you don't have to be little, but there's a lot of anger. And that's exactly why we're here. So get away from the anger and abuse. So Vish, brace for impact, put your crash helmet on, because I feel like you're going to cop it for the next 30 minutes.
I'm here for it.
You're here for it. Lovely. So let's chew the fat on the 3 big news stories that we're going to get into today. There's going to be different bits and pieces as we flick through the podcast. Listen, guys, if you're watching, so episode 1, we're hoping we're going to get a grand total of 24 views. Of those 24, 6 will be my family, 6 will be Matt, 6 will be Vish, 6 will be Steph. Comments, likes, subscribe, all that usual stuff. Please do it. Engagement. If you don't agree with what we've got to say, firstly, we don't care, but secondly, we still want you to make a comment about it. This is just an opinion-based conversation. None of it is fact, although actually maybe some of it will be and probably should be. Yeah, just let us know what you think. Chime in with whatever you want. So first up, the story we're going to look at today is 100% mortgages are back. So Skipton Building Society have brought back the 100% mortgage. That means no security deposit. Blimey, too long in lettings. No deposit needed. It's open to first-time buyers only. Need to be 21 years old, or at least 21 years old and over. It's a 5-year fixed term. They're offering 5.49%, and they will judge or review your rental payments for the last 12 months, and they'll make a decision based on that and a whole load of other criteria as to whether you are suitable to borrow, and they'll look at what you can borrow based on what your monthly rental commitments have been. So open to the floor. Those of us who've been in agency a while will remember 100% mortgages were around sort of pre-2008, pre-2007, then they sort of disappeared away. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing?
125% mortgages are about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good old days.
With Northern Rock, if you remember that was always a good idea, wasn't it? But I think, to be honest with you, I think we're in much different times. We're not in that global banking crisis. The 125% I think was ridiculous. I think this is fair because tenants are trapped largely. The way rents have gone up, tenants are paying so, and it's an argument I hear a lot. People are saying, I can't afford to save the deposit because the rents are so high. And I do have, we have tenants that are paying, say, £2,000 a month in rent, but the bank has been saying, I'm not sure you can afford £1,000 a month for the mortgage payment. It doesn't really work. So I think it's fair.
I think there's a big thing though that a certain group of estate agents seem to be missing in that. Yeah, it probably is fair. Yes, it's going to help some people get onto the ladder that can't currently. But statistically, if you look at last year, first-time buyers were the biggest group of buyers that we had in the market. Roughly around 34% of transactions went to first-time buyers. So what I think is wrong is that you see estate agents on social media. It's like, oh God, I've got something I can post about today. Fantastic. And they're like, woohoo, the market's back, 100% mortgages. And actually, that's just the wrong message entirely. So absolutely fantastic. Let's celebrate allowing another crop of people to get onto the property ladder. But I think we'll talk probably about social media later, but here's a big problem in estate agency. There's not enough estate agents that actually know what's going on nationally, let alone locally, to be able to say, the market is great. Here's another even more brilliant thing that we can discuss, and here's the sort of people that should be interested in it.
I'm pretty on the fence about it. At the beginning, when it first got announced, I was sort of along the lines of, if you don't have skin in the game, do you have, are you going to be able to keep up with repayments, etc., if you haven't got a little pot behind you? But then the more I thought about it, the more I spoke to people, you can buy a car these days without a deposit, and that's no issue. You can finance many things at the moment without putting in tens of thousands of pounds. So I'm really 50-50. The other side of the coin for me is that if you're not putting that initial 10-15% in at the beginning, is it going to make it more difficult for you to upsize further down the line because you're having to pay back, because you're not getting as much out of your sale because you've not put that chunk of deposit in the first place, if that makes sense? So I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it, actually.
Don't you actually think, though, there's going to be a whole host of people that could use this product, but quite simply, there's not the right level of inventory in the market for them to be able to use it, or even when there is, the top of the market, the people aren't downsizing. There's a huge percentage of people that are living in houses that are probably too large for them, because actually the bit of the market we're missing is those sort of mid to high end retirement properties. Simon Gates and I were having a conversation on this last week, in that there's these people that want the property of a 4-bed downstairs but don't necessarily need all the bedrooms atop, but they're still not moving. So it's kind of one of those things that'll be a flash in the pan. It's great to talk about for a bit, but will it actually be that effective? I'm not sure.
it's really interesting. So the point I want to come back to, Steph, is the point you made about estate agents up and down the land not knowing what they need to know, what they should know. They can't talk about data. They haven't got the analytics. They aren't confident on their local market, let alone national, although don't get me started on this national market nonsense. There's no such thing as a national housing market. A 3-bedroom terrace house in up north for 190 grand versus a £3 million flat in Fulham. You know, the relevance of talking about those two things in the same conversation is ridiculous. But what I like, the point you make, or what I want to push back on actually, is agents saying this is a great idea on social media because they're just looking for some social media content, desperate to just say something. Really, on my feed, so we must follow different people. I've just got a miserable load of estate agents saying this is a bad idea. It's the end of the world. Here comes 2008 again. And that's why I thought we should talk about it today, because I guess your social media feed a lot of the time is what determines how you feel about what's going on. And so I didn't see a lot of positive commentary about 100% mortgage. I saw grumpy old estate agents saying, here comes the crash. So
I've unfollowed those knobbers, as I referred to people on LinkedIn the other day, but I've unfollowed them.
So Matt, what did you see? What do you think other agents are thinking about this? Are they positive, are they negative? Are they playing the Vish card and getting splinters on their arse from sitting on the fence?
I think there's a couple of bits. So first of all, it doesn't just matter what the agent's thinking. You've got to look. So the first, so I did do a poll, and I know Steph is a massive fan of polls, but it wasn't on LinkedIn, so maybe she'll let me off lightly. So we did one on our Charles David Casson social feed for the public to see what they thought of it, and it was 60-40 pretty much, 60% in favour of it, 40% thought it was a bad idea. In terms of agents, I think we do, and we live in a world with social media where everybody's more interested in being first than they are being right. So instantly you saw a lot of people chucking a lot of stuff out. Not all of it was, because it's a big headline, 100% mortgage. The reality is it can be anything from 95 up. So you can put down 1, 2, 3, or 4%. You can have a little bit of skin in the game if you've got that. So I often think it's worth, what agents should really do is speak to their broker, get the facts, and then put something out. But we do live in a world where everyone wants to be first. But on the whole, I didn't see. It was kind of mixed. I didn't see massive amounts of negativity about it. I try and stay out of the comments on property industry I had on it, because the phantom dickhead that is Jan Byers would have been there moaning about it somehow. But I don't know if that's who that actually is. That's what this podcast should be dedicated to: finding out who that person is.
So
who the fuck is
genuinely,
Jan Byers?
Jan Byers has got, so on my episode notes here, first episode, every week there's going to be different little skits, and one of them is going to, the idea is the hunt for Jan Byers. That's not the title of it, but like a genuine, every week we need to be on top of the comments so we can show the comments she's given, and then can we find. So I googled today, there is a John Byers, Jon Byers, one letter out. He is an agent in London, but looking at him, his profile to me doesn't match with what I'm expecting Jan Byers to be. Jan sounds like Karen in disguise. Yeah,
Jan sounds like Karen on steroids. But I do think it's a bit like that. I don't know if you've ever watched Saturday Night Takeover with Ann and Deck, and they have the little mystery thing, who done it. We should have one of them, really, the hunt for Jan Byers, and the Scooby-Doo reveal at the end when Christopher Watkins reveals his mask and it turns out to be him.
I mean, I'm up for it, Matt. I think you've just got yourself a regular slot on the show.
Nice.
The Jan Byers Hunter.
The Jan Byers Hunter.
Going back to your point, though. Going back to your point, though, there, I think clearly there is such a mishmash of how people feel about that. The one big thing I've just thought about is, imagine all the new people that have joined our industry over the last 3 to 4 years, right? Because estate agents just had to employ to keep up with all the demand. They must be sat in those branches not having a clue, because they've never been in this market before to start with. They'll probably be too young, with all respect, to remember 100% mortgages, 125% mortgages, etc. And I would imagine in a proportion, and I'll say proportion rather than good proportion, I really wanted to say good proportion, but a proportion of those branches, you've got your Jan Byers of the world, you've got your naysayers, you've got the people who just love the sound of their own opinion and actually can't take a a good view at what's happening nationally or locally, whether you believe in that national scenarios do have an impact on local markets or not. So yeah, that for me is if you are newish to the industry, if you've not been in the industry that long, you should definitely be following this podcast and listen to some people talking the truth.
That right there is a social media clip waiting to happen. Great work, Steph. You've got the first one of the episode of the
Soundbite, love it.
Smashed it. Sorry, Vish, were you going to say something there?
And I was just going to say.
No, well, let me finish what I was going to say. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, go on, mate.
No, just I completely agree. I mean, I've been in estate agency for 10 years now. I wasn't around, during the time of much higher interest rates. I wasn't in the industry at the time, at that particular time. So throughout my lifetime of being in the property industry, as well as buying the last few places I have, I've always had, sort of a mortgage rate of around 2%. Now mortgage rates are around, 4.5%, 5%. I don't have that mentality that, oh my God, of course it's double than it was a few years ago, but I'm more of the mindset that, okay, we've had it good over the last however many years with interest rates, and it's just sort of going back to a level of normality. And the reason I bring that point up is because, to Steph's point, I think new people coming into the industry need to be better educated and really understand what has happened in the property market, in the mortgage rate market, etc., over the last however many years before sort of making a decision on what they think is perhaps right or wrong. Because there are so many people at the moment screaming and shouting about how high rates are, but in actual fact, if you delve into it, it's not all that bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to unpack, but you're both right, and I know Matt. I'm certain Matt has the same view, that the education piece around or training or coaching or mentoring, whatever it might be, in this industry is just not good enough. We just don't take it seriously enough. You've got 10 years of experience and you've still not experienced the market or conditions in this current market before, even with 10 years experience. So what happens to the guys that joined 2 years ago? They've got absolutely no clue. They are so detached from what the world looks like when you're not coming out of a pandemic with virtually 0% interest rates. And that's completely not their fault. When you go into a restaurant and the service is crap and you're pissed off with a waiter, it's not the waiter's fault. It's the guy running the restaurant who hasn't trained the waiter how to do their job properly. And I'm not, this is not a dig at people that run estate agency businesses. I think culturally, as a sector, we just need to give more thought to the fact that we can do a better job of training people and helping them be better at their job. It's what we're about to do is start a 4-hour conversation on how to improve estate agency, and I'm really conscious that the goal is 30 to 40 minutes. We're 10 minutes in. No, we're not. We're 16 minutes in, and we've done one tiny piece of what we're going to do. Go on, Matt. Do you want to have the final word?
All I was going to say is, though, on that, we live it. What a time we live in, though, with social media, where that training is free and it's out there. So when I was raised, if you like, in agency, you had your area, your manager, your area manager, right? And if they were crooks and dickheads, they either put you off so much you went the other way, or you became a crook and a dickhead, and that was the way it went. There's a saying I really like. It takes a village to raise a child, and I think the young negs coming into the children, and we as an agent, as an industry, the profession, can be that village. And it's why it really pisses me off when everyone just sits there going, "Oh, when Roper's here, it'll all be okay." I'm like, no, fuck that. Say, if you're doing the right stuff now, talk about it. So like, you've got people. Steph talks. Ben talks, there's Matt Giggs talks, Sam Hunter, Simon Gates. There's so many people saying things that actually someone could be working in the Connells group, for want of a better corporate. They can come home, they can listen to a podcast, and they can go, well, that's weird. That guy told me I had to make someone do a mortgage, but these guys are saying I don't. And look, they seem to be doing okay. So we have the ability to self-educate. More people just need to be a little bit more vocal.
That is a beautiful. We've got clips coming out of our ears right now, short form clips. I couldn't agree more. And I genuinely hope that there's so much educational content out there, and I think there's a demographic in a estate agency that aren't that turned on by being educated. My hope is this is more lighthearted, it's more entertainment based, and through entertainment, already you three are giving insights that I genuinely believe will help agents that need the help. So we're not ramming it down their throat and trying to educate them, which I've spent the last 2 years making absolute pig's ear of. We're just having a bit more fun with it. So yeah, great arch from 100% building, 100% mortgages into let's do a bit more training. Okay, good. Let's get on to story number two. So the Renters Reform Bill, very, very big piece of legislation. Been coming. We don't lean to blue or to red on this show. We just hate politicians. That's a given. Everyone, we're estate agents, so we're allowed to say that. They're trusted less than us, which actually means we should love them. So the major concern, I think, for a lot of agents and actually for landlords that we service as agents is no fault evictions. Section 21s might be disappearing off. We might be left with Section 8s. I can see a lot of concern. I can see a lot of landlords thinking enough is enough now. The last 10 years have been filled with taxation changes, legislative changes, updates to compliance, some very good, some not so great. And they're feeling really, really penalised, and may well decide that, you know, there's the amateur landlord conspiracy theorists saying that successive governments don't want us around, they want us out, so we're out. What do you guys think?
I think there's more and more clearly there's more and more protection for tenants, and it's less attractive to be a landlord now. I mean, I've got a place on rent at the moment, and before I bought into Fine & Country, I was seriously thinking about becoming, you know, well, with a landlord, maybe multiple other properties, was thinking about putting my money into another places. It's just become less and less attractive as the years have gone on, you know. So tax bills, not just tax bills though, you know, every other month there's an increase in service charge, or there's an increase in your building insurance, or there's an increase in your ground rent, whatever it may be. There's just costs coming out of your ears as a landlord, and on top of that, you don't have the protection you should do should anything go wrong with the tenancy, or your tenant doesn't pay their rent for however long it is. And it's not an attractive option for me anymore. I think the place that I do have is going pretty soon. I'm going to get rid of it. That's how negatively I look at being a landlord now.
You sound like a broken man. Are you all right?
What I like,
you know what?
This is like an advert for for shelter to use, isn't it? Because he's a well-off man sitting in West London drinking his chock-a-mocha latte, going, "Well, life is so difficult. I was thinking about buying 100 properties, but to be honest with you, the paperwork's a nightmare."
You know where it's coming from. I got a letter. This is madness. I got a letter from my managing agent last week. And they said, your tenant has parked on the double yellow line outside your building 8 times. We've issued him with 8 tickets. The next ticket he gets, he's going to get a ticket, and you're going to get a ticket. And we're also going to fine you for not correctly telling your tenant where to park. And I'm like, what are you talking about? How do I have control about where he parks? It's been a tricky week.
Wow. I mean, if there's a little first world problems clip here, I tell you, you are living in cuckoo land, mate. You're sitting in High Road House, which has got a members club above it. You're on Chiswick High Road, which is absolutely the celebrity haunt. And as Matt said, you got your £35 coffee and 8-inch hair. You need to come back to the real world. I'll put my arm around you when I next see you.
I'm speaking for all short estate agents out here. Right, guys? So, there you go.
Okay. Well, so we've had the opinion of the small estate agents. Matt, Steph, what do you reckon? Renters Reform Bill, good thing, bad thing?
I'll just throw, because I lettings and me, rentals and me. I'm not a huge sort of lettings fan. I suppose I'll just put the shoe on the other foot in that. And also, this is going to give me the ability to mention to you all that I used to live in California. And if there's one thing you know about me, if I can mention that, I will get it into as many times as I possibly can. But I've probably rented quite a lot in comparison to, say, somebody else in a similar position to me, because I have moved across the country quite a lot of times and I've moved to other countries. And I've always found the landlord relationship, I'd say enjoyable, but a good relationship. Actually, perhaps some of the poorer estate agents muddied the waters there, but it's always been quite harmonious. So I suppose as an outsider looking in, although we do lettings, I just decide not to really venture onto that side of the business. If there was a straw poll to be done, what's the difference there between great tenants and bad tenants? Because surely the only problem with all of this is those bad tenants, and actually a brilliant tenant that looks after the home, pays on time, etc., isn't really an issue for that landlord if they've got that good product that they're offering.
I think the big issue with it, again, about being people liking to be first rather than right, is you've got that a little knowledge is dangerous situation. So I've already seen in Facebook groups. So the other day, somebody, and you feel for me, said, my landlord wants to sell his house, or, you know, what can I don't think they can do that anymore. You know, there's this new rules we brought out, and the pet one, because pets are a massively contentious issue, which again, I get, you know, landlords go, I want to rent out my family home. Like, well, families come with pets. Well, no, I don't want one of those families. And it's like, okay. Well, the other day, there was one that the family had, I saw again on Facebook, they wanted to rent a 4-bedroom house to have 3 children. It was like, I've got a family house, but I don't want the family in it. And it's like, some landlords do need to, but again, I think agents need to explain things differently to them. But these changes, they're not here now, right? They're still, and they're going. It's going to be a good 18 months before, and they're not all going to be, and they're going to be slightly changed. And that's the thing. Again, I think good agents need to be out there on social media, educating people, saying these are probably coming, but they're down the line. They don't apply now, because you have already got the little local experts on Facebook saying, oh yeah, they have to let you have 5 zebras and an elephant living in there now. It's like, no, they don't. So we just want to be careful with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. There are the Facebook busybodies who have got an opinion on everything, normally completely comes from the wrong point of view. And back to Steph, your point about bad tenants being the issue. Yeah, if you look, straw poll, time and time again, I mean, we all know data will be manipulated to feed any sort of marketing campaign you want. And so Shelter are extraordinary. I mean, I imagine they've got the same spin doctor as Tony Blair had in his years in charge, because they managed to paint the most terrifying picture and completely misrepresent the data on how landlords behave. We, in my past business, we were a 75% lettings business. We had a reasonable sized portfolio. And I can count on 2 hands over a period of 13 years how many bad landlords we dealt with. 13 years of lettings across a 5-branch business. Landlords aren't in it to stitch up tenants. They're in it to get a return on their investment. And that's it. Most will see it as a business. Some will allow emotion to get involved because it's it used to be their house or their home, but that's normally a positive thing, the emotion. It means they want their property looked after. It means they want to look after their tenant. I think the issue we've got, is that right now, why now after all this time is the rentals reform bill being thrown up? Because we're expecting a general election to be called in the next 18 months. And so it's politicians doing it again. For me, this is not for the benefit of tenants. This is for the benefit of their voting policy. Tenants represent such a huge a section of the population that the Tories in particular are going to need those votes, because they know they haven't done particularly well over the last 10 years. And I just think it's extraordinarily frustrating for us, who we sort of get caught in the crossfire. We need to advise people effectively. We need to talk about best practice, but then we're not consulted on what that looks like in terms of policy. And somehow I've just got into a rant. Matt, take over, please.
All I was going to say is there's 2 things. Just where Vishy's sitting, I've decided, can we get him to talk loudly about politics? Because I'm sure we can get him to upset some of the locals there. It'd be quite fun to see like a cross-on come flying across and smack him in the head. But also don't forget that it won't be a problem soon, because all of the tenants are going to start taking 100% mortgages and become homeowners.
You fixed it.
There's no problems.
It's a walk in. It's easy. It is that easy. But sorry, Vish, Matt's nailed it. Bearing on where you're sitting, if you could scream at the top of your lungs, "I'm a Labour voter," You might get lynched, bearing in mind where you're sitting. That was you started to whisper there. What was that?
I said I won't make it to the next appointment. That's the issue. So, I'll just keep that message.
Okay, so Renters Reform Bill. The overriding, I think, feedback is for our colleagues, estate agents up and down the land, is just don't panic. It is a long way away from impacting your landlords directly. The indirect impact is you may have less investment from landlords right now. Let's see what prices do. First-time buyers. What did you say, Steph? 34% of the market last year. So there's a lot of heat at that area, that end of the market, which is the landlord market. Go on, Matt.
The other positive is, what a time to show your value as a letting agent, as a managing agent, is to, there's something like 170 bits of legislation they've already got to comply with. Now this is coming. Again, agents, rather than moaning, with every problem there's an opportunity, right? So spin it and show people you know what you're talking about, and then it's a good way for you to win more business.
Every problem is an opportunity, said like a true motivational speaker. Next time you're on, I want the spandex, Mr. Motivator spandex. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You can moan about it or you can use it to your advantage in some way, I'm sure. So, all right, let's get on to the third and final, the biggie, the one Steph's been looking forward to. So, Steph, maybe you want to give everyone a little run through of your CV. Didn't you single-handedly launch Purplebricks to the market? Wasn't it? It was all you, wasn't it?
Yeah, Kenny and Michael were just a facade. They didn't actually exist.
You were way ahead of your time. They were AI generated, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
So this news story is Purplebricks, once valued. I didn't realize this. 1.3 billion they were once valued at. I mean, who's come up with these valuations? What a load of nonsense. 1.3 billion, but it's a good headline, and it really amplifies the fact that they sold for £1 last week to Strike, the business that in January announced it would be making 150 redundancies. And their model, in case anyone doesn't know, is that they will sell your home for free, or at least it was. I'm not sure if they're starting to pivot now. Share prices of Purplebricks at their height in 2017 were 525 pence a share. They're now less than a penny. And so I don't mean to laugh because I'm not an anti-Purplebricks person, but their current running costs are £3 million a month. There are 750 jobs potentially at risk, which is absolutely not a laughing matter. And so, yeah, the deal has in theory been done. Strike will purchase the business for £1 and supposedly try and make a success of it. This has got a lot of coverage in the trade press, and it's got a lot of feedback and comments. Steph, I'm going to come to you first because you've got such experience. What do you think's going on?
So I think there's two ways to look at this. And the first and the most important is, my God, do I feel sorry for those people that are at Purplebricks. Now, look, I'm only on the outside looking in. I've not been a part of Purplebricks since 2019. But pretty much since I left, they have just been hit time and time again with what would appear from the outside to be changes made by people who haven't got a clue about estate agency, changes made by people who didn't have a clue what was the beating heart of that business, and that was the people. Because whether you like, hate Purplebricks, it really is irrelevant. One thing that they did absolutely brilliant was build a culture. And there'll be people that laugh when I say this word now, but it was evangelical. That culture was, you'd have run through a purple brick wall for your colleague. You believed in what you were doing. And it was different than just believing that you delivered great customer service, believing that you were, I don't know, the best estate agent in town, whatever you want to be. People were trying something different. People were going self-employed. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, they weren't the first self-employed. Let's not start that conversation. They weren't the first self-employed scenario in the UK, but they did it in a really big way. They did it in a loud way. They did it in a way that I've never seen one brand come together to do before. So let's just put that there for a second and go, my God, I feel sorry for the guys that are there. I hope you're getting great direction. I hope you're getting a peek under the hood that we don't get from the outside. And if things don't go the way that you wish them to, I am sure that there are amazing businesses out there that would love to take people that gave a chance on doing something different and won't just sit there in the little four walls of the branch that they've only ever existed in and be naysayers. Because that's the real pig that you see on pie, right? In that, I'm sure there are people that run their own brilliant businesses that have tried to do different things, and they don't need to like Purplebricks. But what they will turn around and say is, you know what, fair on you. Well done for trying, and for everybody that went out there and did that, well done too. But if you have been sat in the four walls of the same or similar branch for 15 or 20 years and you think you can have an opinion on somebody that tried to do something new, you're what's wrong with a state agency, and that is that. However, the other flip side that I believe that the rest of us should be looking on this now is that outside of Yopa, which in a sense hasn't really done much really within the marketplace, Strike have now taken out the fair fixed fee model. Some people say nobody wants a fair fixed fee, yada, yada, yada. And to some extent, certainly my experience at Purplebricks was that people weren't necessarily coming to Purplebricks because of the low fee. Not all of them. They landed to Purplebricks because of the marketing. Then they met, certainly back in my day, a really good estate agent at a really cheap fee and thought, my God, what could be better than this? And again, if you're going to have a slight at Commisery, Commisery wasn't saying estate agents are shit. Commisery was saying don't pay more if you don't get more. And that's annoying when people don't actually watch that and they spout a load of nonsense. But let me go back to the point I'm trying to make. Strike is now taking...
You can't say it's annoying when somebody doesn't get the advert, because that means the advert wasn't done properly. Commisery was bullshit. The Easy Property funeral procession down the high street was bullshit. The reason nobody hates Yopa as much is because they're not offensive. People don't dislike the low fee model. People dislike the way Purplebricks went about it. We could say it was new, but what they basically did was, what's new is coming out of, well, your mum's fat, we hate you. And then when it all went to shit, they went, oh, do you want to be friends? No, f off.
No, Commisery said, don't pay more if you're not going to get more. So that isn't a slight on bad estate agents. That is a slight on bad estate agents. That isn't a slight on all estate agents. And I will say this until, I will die on this hill. No brilliant estate agent lost out to a Purplebricks agent ever. Because if you did, you weren't that bloody brilliant. And most brilliant estate agents weren't even asked about Purplebricks. It was the shit estate agents that were.
I think again the low fee model never bothers me because they're not my clients. But it was the constant TV adverts, radio adverts insinuating that agents were lazy, and lots of hard-working agents put up with it. So, because I put this exact thing on LinkedIn, so I'd always be consistent at least, and people agreed. So I don't think people are going Ray Purplebricks the fee model. I think they're going, you came for us, and it didn't work out. So why should we feel sorry for you? And that's the bit.
Do you know what I think is interesting now, though? So the clients that I said that came to Purplebricks because of the advertising and then just found a low fixed fee, they're ripe for the taking, because I believe people looking for Strike or choosing Strike see no value in estate agents whatsoever. A lot of those Purplebricks customers did see value in estate agents. It was just they were attracted by the proposition. So for me, we've got a great job. For those that don't live in the fixed fee, the low fee world anymore, we've got a great job, a really exciting opportunity to say back to those people, let's now demonstrate that value. Let's now prove to you that actually there is worth in paying somebody well for doing a brilliant job with your most valuable assets. So I think actually they've done a favor in Strike taking it over. They've done us a favor because we'll get some of those clients back, and those that never saw value will just go to Strike anyway, and that is irrelevant.
And what do you think, Matt? What's Strike going to do with this purchase?
I don't know. Is the honest answer. Data's more, data's more precious than gold and oil, isn't it? So Strike's model is obviously they make their money from mortgages and conveyancing. So it is not, do it free, but we'll do your mortgages and conveyancing. They obviously and Purplebricks have built up one thing they knew how to get data, right? So they will have a huge database, and Strike obviously believe they can do something with that. Listen, if someone can genuinely sell properties for next to no money, providing a great service, and the client gets that experience and they need it, I'm all for it. Tell me how to do it. We'll go and do it. My thing is, we talked earlier about the training piece and how you can't afford, how much training are people getting when you're not paying that money. For me, the model was always disjointed. You had And I'll take Steph's word for it that they were brilliant agents of the Purplebricks model, because she dealt with more of them than I did. The ones I came across weren't so much. But the thing is, in most agencies, the agency owner earns his money from selling houses. The agents on the ground earn money from selling houses. In the Purplebricks world, it was all about share price. It was all make enough noise. Because we're easy targets, right? We're going to kill high street agents. Oh yeah, we'll have some of that. We'll buy some shares. And we talk about agents overvaluing properties. Overvaluing these companies is doing a job, aren't they? But we had it back in the early days with eMove, and Russell Clarke was on his little pulpit every 2 seconds when he needed to raise some more money, and he was going to change the world, and that didn't work. Purplebricks were the same. So I feel sorry for anybody who worked for Purplebricks who genuinely thought they were working for an estate agent rather than they were just trying to grow a share price.
Vish, I think you've been muted for the last 10 minutes, mate.
Taking it all in. I've not had, I mean, the little interaction I've had with directly with Purplebricks, I'm talking in terms of clients I've spoken with who have used them, which has only been a handful of times because we work completely different sectors of the market. But from what I can see, there's just no motivation for somebody that works at Purplebricks to sell or get the best price for the client, because in a lot of the cases, correct me if I'm wrong, the fee is already paid, right? Fee, whatever structure you go for, fee is paid at the beginning, and then what do you get out of selling the house? You know, you get nothing in addition. It's just it's glorified. I might be wrong there, but from what I can see,
I think the landscape certainly will have shifted when people move to the employed model, but I think it's also a little bit disparaging for us to just say to a whole group of people that just because you're paid anyway means that you go to work to do a shit job. Because we could say that for a lot of high street agents as well, that still no sale, no fee, but those staff are getting paid every month, regardless of whether those houses sell as well. So I think there's a fine line there, and I do think we need to leave, you know, the individuals to a bit of peace now, because those people that have got up every day for the last couple of years and gone to do a good job at Purplebricks, what's happened outside of that, you know, it's not their fault. And there are still some people there that were there from the very beginning that remember when it really was a movement. But I think with strike, you know, I think I just think it's a positive move for the rest of the industry, because unless, if, or whether it doesn't happen, another fair fixed fee model comes in and really tries to work it, there are so many clients that are sat there waiting for us to prove our value. And that, for me, that's a proper fun client to work with. I think that almost really wants you to do well, and you get the chance to show them that, yeah, you know, you've been waiting for us all along.
Yeah, I mean, this is, for me, this is the most difficult piece to talk about, because we've, as Vish pointed out, so in the business that we're in together, Purplebricks not really a competitor. Yeah, they've been around for a long time, and there is interaction with them. And, you know, in our old business, we were more a mass market product, and so there was a bit of interaction, but they didn't have a strong agency presence in our local area. Looking at it, if I was a consumer, I looked at it from the outside. I honestly, trying to remove the estate agency bias that we've all got ingrained in us, and it's really difficult to look at this as a consumer. You just have to hold your hands up and admit that. If I was, so the avatar I jump into is my dad. So my dad is a scaffolder, got no idea about property, owns his home, but, you know, his son's an estate agent, but that doesn't mean anything other than, you know, he gets to ask me, what's happening in property, or can I have that nice glossy magazine with all the nice properties in it this month? Can you bring it round? No, Dad, you're meant to ask about your 3 granddaughters. You're not meant to ask about the bloody magazine. But I think the consumer would say about Purplebricks, that's quite interesting. So they've got this crazy marketing campaign. They're on TV. They are, so instantly there's a layer of familiarity that I don't have with other brands because they're on TV so much. That familiarity starts to build trust. And Steph, to your point, once they find their way there and they're told by the agent they can do the same job at a lower price, I think that's quite compelling. It's hard to say no. So from a consumer perspective, it makes a lot of sense. To Matt's point, there's, you know, the agent. So I did have, yeah, we do our mystery shopping exercises and we need to check out the competition. And the person we had round from Purplebricks, it was a horror show, but that's not because she worked for Purplebricks. There's plenty of agents in our local market that we mystery shop, and they're a horror show, and they're in employed roles or they're self-employed. So the quality of agent, I don't think, is exclusive to the brand, and you're going to have a whole cross section of abilities. I don't think it was a good move to target other agents and be negative about sort of we're going to replace, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But the innovation piece that they found a different way to do it. I think where they missed a trick is once they built that brand awareness, they should have pivoted, increased their fees, and they could have been world beaters if they had just put their fees up and become a stronger model. Go on, Matt, you're itching.
Hindsight's 2020.
All I was going to say is, but also I think agents, and if we want to term it the high street agents, we kind of made a rod for our own back, right? Because if agents weren't so quick to do things like sold in 24 hours, sold to the first buyer, houses selling quickly, then somebody would. We led, and I say we. I think the damage was done before I even came into the industry. As long as I've been in it, we led the public to believe it was so easy to sell a house. Why wouldn't they believe that someone could do it for that kind of price? And I mean,
we put it on a platter for them. We started putting Rightmove cards in our bloody windows. That was the beginning of the end.
But again, and
I've got a Rightmove tattoo. I'll show you it after this.
I've got Rightmove branding. It feels like.
My understanding is that they went to Australia and it didn't have the same effect, because in Australia the agents have built more for themselves in terms of showing what they do and kind of and how they do it. But I think I put out something yesterday about places aren't selling quickly, buyers are being found quickly. And that's the bit and again, it's not necessarily but the biggest complaint I ever had from a Purplebricks customer, and the ones that I see online, are the after sales piece. It wasn't the finding a buyer, it was the after sales piece. And that's the biggest value, I think, in agency. But as agents, we don't explain it. We all went around saying properties are selling quickly. This company came along and went, yeah, they are. We'll do it for pennies. Mm-hmm. The public are going to believe it to a certain extent.
Yeah, you're right.
You've got to be a very fine line. If you are going to be a volume business, you have to be really blatant with clients about what's being offered. And I think one of the issues, most certainly post-sale support or whatever the incantation is these days, wasn't built to set up volume. I also think that the individual scenario in terms of charging that low fee, the cost per acquisition of that valuation or listing, and then what you could pay agents, it was always going to be that they had to carry too much stock. So yeah, you go back and you look at Purplebricks in any of the three countries, charging more, once you have that great brand awareness, aided, unaided, whatever, would have made sense. And potentially they could have over time built on that value proposition, and then everybody would have been happy realistically, because you'd either choose Purplebricks or your local high street agent could have made more money by charging the same as Purplebricks as they started to creep up ever so. But yeah,
hold on, whoa,
George Benson song.
I just got to correct you on one thing. Jam buyers would not have been happy, no matter what. Jam buyers
this is
would have
true.
had a complaint. She would not have been pleased.
This is true.
Or he would not have been pleased. Is it John Byers? Matt, you're going to have to do some hunting.
They would not have been pleased. Don't worry, I'm on it. Yeah.
They, them. Okay, all right. So look, interesting. Let's see what happens. Purplebricks strike. I mean, for me, that is a serious uphill challenge to turn that into something successful now with the debt position, overheads. But, as I said, 750 people potentially with their jobs on the line. So, hopefully they find a way to make that work. But
as Steph says right now, if you're a really good agent, you believe in your proposition, they shouldn't worry you. I just hold a massive grudge. That's all it is. The model has annoyed me. I'm just still really angry about the TV adverts, but that's just because I hold a grudge because I've got little man syndrome. So I am sure.
Strike reportedly, they were just going to take on the Purplebricks brand and have their own model, though, aren't they?
That's supposedly. But then things sort of change with the wind in this industry, don't they? So I guess we shall see. Okay, that's enough news. Vish, you've been on mute again for 10 minutes. You okay? Everything? You're still in the game?
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
He's having a panini now. He's on to lunch.
Yeah, getting through it a bit. All right. Well, let's get on to some really positive stuff. So next section is for us to talk about, or you guys to talk about, some really, really positive. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to provide a bit of education without ramming it down people's throats. I get a lot of, and this sounds really naff, because I don't like the word inspiration traditionally, because it sounds like you're 8 years old and you're being inspired by some old nonsense. But, in the more cynical view, I like to look at people that are doing good stuff and rip it off. So I think a nice place to start is best agents we've worked with. So as you've been on mute for a while, Vish, we'll start with you. Let's just work the room. Who's the best agent you've ever worked with? Where are they? What do they do? What do they used to do? Why are they so wonderful? And then after this, so underneath, there'll be some notes and comments, and we're going to tag everyone in it. So if you guys are interested, you can jump on social media. You can follow not just Matt, Vish, and Steph, but you can also follow everyone we talk about and probably get some really great advice just from following them. So yeah, Vish, over to you. Who do you think?
I've got to go with Reg Bhanot. He's currently a Fine and Country associate for West Hampstead. I've worked with him. He used to be my manager actually many years ago, and I think the word that springs to mind when thinking about Reg is just composed. I mean, Ben, you worked with him for a period of time as well.
The word that springs to mind with me is little man syndrome. That's the smallest estate agent on the planet. He's
shorter than me. He's shorter than me.
Honestly, guys, he's like that. You carry him around in your inside pocket. He is extraordinarily talented. Extraordinary.
He hasn't got the Barnet to increase the height either, unfortunately. So a bit of trouble with some scenarios. But no, he's a great agent. Very composed. I think I only ever saw him lose his rag once, and it was the most beautiful way to lose his rag at someone that I've never seen. He managed to make a solicitor, and a very good solicitor at that, feel this big, and it for all the right reasons, of course. I mean, solicitors can be very difficult people. I think we were on the brink of exchange on a big chain, and the solicitor was holding it up for one reason. Reg had a quick conversation with him, and we exchanged half an hour later. But it was, for me, he's just a very composed chap. He knows exactly what he's talking about. He knows his market very well. He used to be, I think a lot of it stems from him being for Carphone Warehouse. He's a very salesy, very in your face, very sort of forward method of selling, right? And I think that's where a lot of his talent maybe comes from. But then as he's been in the estate agency for so long, he's obviously picked this up extremely well. Very talented chap. Okay.
So firstly, thanks, because obviously I introduced him to the world of estate agency, spent 6-7 years training him up into the beast that he is, and you're attributing his skill to Carphone Warehouse. So thanks for that, mate. That's really I appreciate that.
I also did the screen crackle when the one-liner, because I heard he really made the solicitor feel this small. I was waiting for some killer one-liner, and I just said he had a chat with him, and we got an exchange.
I don't think actually. I'm not sure if you can repeat what he said. But more concerning is what you're describing. He's really good because he got a big chain through, and I got paid. It sounds like that's what you're saying. You haven't given any.
That's a good month.
I know him, Reg, as well as I do. He's got so many quality attributes, and all you've said is he made sure you got paid. I mean, this is.
Yeah, but we haven't got much long left.
You're right. Okay,
I'll give you that. Hours,
All right, fine. Let's. Steph, who's your 20? We are 51 minutes into a 30-minute podcast, and just so you know, we've got another 8 sections to go, guys. So, Steph, who's your number one?
I'm probably going to offend a lot of people here, and it took me a long
people
time
don't mind if you say me. That's okay. That's not a problem.
I was thinking, but what is a good estate agent? And so, I suppose I thought, if I was in a difficult transaction, who could get me through to the end, and as a client make me feel as good as I could about life? And it's actually my business partner, Mark Bruce. And it was
business partners.
I know. But Vish said composed, and now anybody that knows Mark Bruce, particularly after a beer or so, composed is not the word you would use about him. But I've heard him have the most lovely, calming, composed conversations with clients, which, don't get me wrong, are direct, but they're not blunt. And I think it's probably one of the best skills that any estate agent can have, and I'm sure we all have it on this screen, that when things get really hairy towards the end, And everyone's throwing their toys out the pram. Buyers, sellers, solicitors, mortgage brokers, yourself, your sales progressor. You know, you need that steady ship. You need that person that can go, okay, let's look at this really logically. Let's throw emotion just to one side for a moment. Here's the scenario. Here's what we do. And it's just that I think composure is probably one of the best skills you can have in a state agency, just to calm those moments at the end, because that's where, you know, the deal falls out if people deal with that in the wrong way. So yeah, I would say actually totally with you there, Vish. I'm somebody that can really hold that composure in the hairy moments is a great estate agent.
Very nice. Very nice. Business partner, boo, but very nice. No, I mean, got to do what you got to do. Oh, Matt, I thought you were looking at your watch there. Like, come on, I got somebody to go. Go on, Matt, who you got for us?
Well, I can go business partners if we want. So, but no, I think it depends on what side of and what bit of the business, I suppose. But that, I think the calm is a really good way to describe it when you've got those kind of calming voices. Because even when we know it's hairy, when it's really hairy, right? But to clients, you forget it's always hairy. So I worked with a guy years ago called Stuart. Is not in the industry anymore, sadly. And he would even lower the tone of his voice when he was on the phone. So he was always negotiating. He didn't like to go and do the valuations, but he would just make people feel like he was their best friend. He had that really good relationship with them. But even the tone of his voice, he could lower, and it was just kind of a really calming influence. I had a boss once called Paul, who again, sadly isn't in the industry anymore. And this is a problem we have in the profession, is people do keep leaving. And again, he once told me that the best agents will make the worst phone calls straight away. So someone pulled out buying a house, straight on the phone, this is what's happened. But again, the calmness you deliver it with. And my brother, who I mentioned in the lettings world, fantastic, because I don't have the temperament for property management, as you could probably guess. But where he's an ex-policeman, he's had to tell people some really bad news in their life. So a broken washing machine just doesn't faze him. So that. But if you want to go the other side, I will mention Ed Casson, who Fine and Country, as you know. The guy's networking is just unbelievable. So his phone book is just he saves everyone's number, and he saves them by name. So because a lot of time people will phone me and I'll answer it and I won't save their name, but he saves everybody. And you'll see him sometimes, if he hasn't got any appointments or anything, he just goes for a walk and he's always on his phone. And I think, Jesus, his missus must be giving him a hard time. He's been on that phone for hours. But he just phones people and he goes, hello, I haven't spoken to you for a year. How's he getting on? And he's just that constant communication with past clients. He hasn't got anything for them. They might not be selling, but leads just come into him kind of constantly. And I think that's the piece a lot of agents miss, is that constant networking and keeping in touch with the past clients. And Ed is probably the best at that I've ever seen.
That's brilliant.
And I have to jump in there. Mark Bruce is exactly the same in there. And isn't that the one bit
no,
that
my
we
business
really
partner's better than
fall
yours.
down? No, but that's the one bit we really fall down on in the UK. We go, you know, we've sold the house, we've collected the sold board, and that's the end of that. And I think, I don't know whether it was on Pi. I do try not to read Pi, sorry. 1 in 8 people will return to the estate agent they bought or sold through in the UK. In Australia, it's like upwards of 78%. And it's good. Why are we so transactional? Why aren't we that community person? Why don't we care about our clients that enough?
Well, I mean, it's brilliant points made about what I imagine are. I know Ed and I know Reg very well, and I'm sure Mark is a brilliant agent. But it all falls under, I think, the same umbrella, and it's communication. It's quality of communication, whether it's empathetic, calming, composed communication when needed, or whether it's relentless communication out to a network. You know, Ed is doing what a great agent should, but so many agents, I don't know, I think there's a lack of skin in the game. There's a lack of investment in the future business they want to do with a you know, people use that term past client, but actually, why is it a past client? Shouldn't it just be a client? It should be a client for life. That word past is crazy, because you're basically saying we're not going to work with them again. So that's brilliant. And, you know, genuinely, I hope that people watching who have got a couple of years experience look at this, listen to this and say, yeah, you know what, I should speak to people more often. If they take that one thing away, that will improve their business. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in 6 months, but in a year, 2 years, 3 years. Okay, let's do the best. So a bit of a focus on digital. bit of a focus on sort of maybe digital stroke social marketing, how people are using it, who's using it really, really well. Matt, can we start with you this time? Who do you think we should be looking at? Maybe we should be following. What have you seen?
So I've seen a video by another chap called Matt. I think that the video isn't new, but I just happened to notice this one because of the detail he went into. He had a very nice house to show. I've only met Matt a couple of times. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but I host a dinner for other estate agency owners that they can come to once a month, third Thursday of every month.
What's it called, Matt?
The EA Directors Club. So that's something that people can come to. But anyway, Matt does that. But this video, when I watched it, at first I was like, oh, this is a nice house, I'll have a look. But the detail he went into about what was actually in the, rather than this is a double bedroom, just the detail he actually into about the bits of the house, I thought was fantastic.
All right, look, I've got it queued up. Should we give it a little watch?
Go on, give it a go.
So let me give you a speedy 2-minute walkthrough of 16 the Greenway in Orpington, London. My name is Matt, the property expert. Yeah, that's me. And this is Agnes and Erica's house, which is now for sale, as the couple are planning to relocate abroad. It's actually a nice day finally, so let's make a start outside. Agnes and Erica were never intending to move, so remodeled this house to match their exacting high standards. Looking back, you can see the full extent of the 2 double-storey extensions. It's got German imported triple glazing, and up there between the balcony and bifold doors is a remote control canopy for hot days. Here's hoping they'll be back soon. That is a top of the range handmade solid wood kitchen. Here is the utility room, and here is an integrated garage. Up the solid ash staircase, which is a piece of art in itself, let's start in the main bedroom. So the master has its own ensuite, and you'll agree that the Super King bed actually looks small in this room. Here is the upstairs family bathroom. This king-side bed belongs to the 3rd bedroom, believe it or not. Here is the 4th bedroom, which is currently used as a dressing room / walk-in wardrobe. And finally, the 2nd largest bedroom has a recess for wardrobes or a desk. This video will go on forever if I try to list the near endless features of this house. So instead, here are some of them, and you can always pause it if you wish.
It's really nice, really nicely done.
Yeah.
My massive takeaway from you putting that forward, Matt, is that anyone could do that. And I don't mean that in a sort of derogatory, like, oh, that's easy. What I mean is, with a decent phone and a bit of time and a bit of thought, everyone could produce that. And I think everyone should be producing that. What do you think?
Well, the great thing is that it's like most things, anyone can really do anything, but most people don't. So, anyone could do a podcast every single week, but they don't. Everyone could do a stat show every single week, or even every day, like yourself. You would do it, but they don't, and that's the part. So yeah, I agree. It's not like most things. I don't think there's much new in the world. And again, I see a lot of these videos, but it was just, for me, it was the way he introduced the owners, mentioned how they enjoyed living there, and then as the video goes through, he even mentions what size beds they've got in, and he really goes into like detailing of they've got some German engineering in the house. And stuff like that. But yeah, 100% people can do it, but whether they will or not is a different matter.
Absolutely. Really nice video, though. What's the name of the agent, Matt?
Matt Lanninge.
Okay.
He goes by the name of the property expert.
Okay, so we're gonna feature Matt in the details below. We'll tag his account so you guys can follow, get some inspiration, because I think it's a brilliant video, and everyone should be moving, I think, in that sort of direction. Steph, what about you? What do you want to highlight for us from a sort of digital perspective?
Following on really from what we've all just said there, just consistency. So Daniel Clarke on LinkedIn, on Instagram, is also on TikTok. He's on every single day. He is consistent. We all talked about setting ourselves a 30 video and 30-day challenge a month ago, and he turned up every day, seller tips, buyer tips, talking about the market. And I think it is just that consistency. There's only such a small percentage of people that are doing video. And now, every time I say that, people are like, that's a load of rubbish. All I see on LinkedIn is video, video, video. But that is such a small subset of people in a estate agency that you follow, right? So the chances are in your local market, people won't be doing video and they won't be doing it consistently. So why not just be first in? Why not be that first person? And look, that was a gorgeous house we just watched on that tour. And so it's easy for people to go, well, I don't sell houses that look like that and things of that nature. I really don't think it matters. And the big thing for me is that regardless of what style of model, what brand you work for, at the end of the day, the best business you can do is business with like-minded people. And so if people are finding you through your social channels, if people are hearing who you are and what you're about, you're going to attract those people and they will pay the best fee. They will be the easiest of transactions, even at the most difficult of times. They'll leave you the very best reviews and they'll be the most enjoyable transactions you're ever involved in. And they will feel the same out the other end. So I just think Daniel, for me, he's in there every day. He's getting over the ego of, oh, people might not like my face or I wanted to say, and and slowly but surely that consistency will be a source of brilliant lead generation, and it's free at the moment, social, in that respect. So yeah, consistency for me, do it. Yeah. And actually Daniel has some really interesting things to say. So
Steph, what's Daniel's surname, just so everyone
Clarke.
knows? Daniel Clarke. So we'll tag Daniel again. We'll highlight him below. But yeah, I think you've nailed a few really strong points. Consistency. Go on, Matt.
Sorry, just very quickly about Daniel Clarke, because I follow him on LinkedIn. And the other thing about it, he definitely is not everyone's cup of tea. But that's the beautiful thing about it, because again, we can't be all things to all men. So for me, never meeting him, it appears to me that Daniel's worked out, this is my tribe and this is who I want to work with. And if they don't like it, I'm not going to work with them. And a lot of agents just are too scared to do that. And that's what I kind of like about his stuff.
Yeah.
Interestingly, that's how I actually started talking to Daniel, because we didn't agree on everything, but certain things we did agree on. And that just has a natural coming together of people, of like-minded individuals, whether you're doing business with one another, whether you're selling someone's home. And they're the clients that you want. They're the people on your LinkedIn feed that you want, I think, that are amplifying how you feel, because it will make every single day so much more positive.
Well, the other thing is though that sorry, go on, Vish. We haven't heard from you in half an hour. Go on, throw something in.
I'm just saying, I don't think not being someone's cup of tea is necessarily a bad thing. I think the key is, as Steph said, consistency, because there are people that I follow that I initially really didn't like. The people at Marmite didn't really think that their content was great, and the way that they were delivering wasn't really my vibe, should I say?
Your vibe. Yeah, only a man sitting in a cafe in Chiswick would use the term vibe to describe someone's social media content. I like it.
They consistently post, and the content, I mean, the detail in the content and the information they're passing over is relevant to the market and to property. So I just found myself over a period of time gradually coming around to it. And I think consistency over actually liking a person is probably the most important.
Well, it's something that doesn't get talked to. Oh, well, maybe it does. Maybe it's a buzzword. Authenticity. When people are posting honest opinion rather than what they think people want to hear, it's so, it's like salespeople. When it's bullshit, you smell it a mile off. If you're genuinely trying to help or giving a genuine opinion on what the right thing is, even if the consumer doesn't want to hear it, they still got to hear it. Whether you want to hear it or not, this is where we're going to land. This is what it's going to be. And it's the same online. I think there's a lot of absolute nonsense out there. And so you're drawn to the authenticity, to the honesty, to the true feelings about something. Steph's point about Matt, you made it, that anyone can do it. Steph, you made it about making it directly, but there's always an excuse, right? Like, the quality of the properties I work on are not going to look good on video. Well, there will always be an excuse to not do something. And it's not just an estate agency exclusive issue. Salespeople are pretty good at finding excuses. But if you want to do it, you can, you will, you should. What I think we're about to, because Vish, I'm going to ask who yours is, what yours is. And you obviously I've seen in advance who you're going to talk about. Maybe we should have done this in a different order, because people are going to think this is what I need to be producing. And no, it's not. Actually, you don't need to go to these extreme levels, but it's great to highlight some of the really extreme high quality stuff that's out there. So who or what are you going to be talking about?
I really like the DDRE stuff, the Daniel Daggers. I mean, it really helps that they work on amazing properties, but I just think there's a slickness to their videos in that the majority I see is a lot of detail at the beginning about the place, introducing the place somewhat, and then just allowing the video to speak for itself, because that's what people want to see, rather than your mug on the camera, right? They want to see the nice house. So, you know, you should start off short and sharp, explain exactly what it is you're going to be seeing, and then let the video do the rest. I really like that style.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe it's because we're all in agency and we follow people that are really good stuff. Some of the stuff they produce is extraordinarily high quality. You're talking like Hollywood production value. I really, really, really want to make the point that, you know, we have done this in a bad order. It's completely on me. We shouldn't be finishing the digital side with the DDRE stuff because people think that's what it's got to be. It hasn't got to be that. I do so much video content on my phone, and the quality is good and the quality is great. But in terms of inspiration and just, wow, look at this property porn. Let me just show you a DDRE video. What a coming soon video. Quite extreme. People involved, black and white, cinematography, it's all going off. So yeah, obviously everyone needs to do it like that, right? You know, it's simple, it's easy. Just get on with doing it. So yeah, we will of course put the DDRE team details below as well for people to follow, and they're really great to take inspiration from, and just do it in your own way. Don't feel like it needs to be, let's say, Hollywood level production. Just give it a go. Consistency, and consistency can be once a week. It doesn't have to be once a day as well. I know the 30-day challenge is a really good way to get it moving and get that repetition and build that habit. But habits can start small. If you can do one video a week, good for you. It's better than doing none. And you're absolutely right, Steph, that because we're on social media and we see great agents on social media using video, actually, if you take a step back and look out into the physical world, how many of your competing agents are using video in that way? Nowhere near as many as the people you're friends with online, friends. Okay, so last section. Oh no, there's two sections. Right, this one is a 30 seconds. You've got 30 seconds. Tell us, if you're a new agent or you're advising a new agent, what's the one thing that they should do, you would advise they do, it's working brilliantly for you or your team right now. The number one thing, 30 seconds. If it's longer than that, I'm just going to chop you off. Vish, go.
You've got to be proactive. I think there are so many agents at the moment that are perhaps relying on the company brand, or, you know, relying on incoming buying seller leads. You've got to be proactive. You've got to go out there. You've got to get the business, door knocking, you know, letter dropping, all of the old ways of traditional marketing, we'll call it, not old school, traditional marketing ways, as well as the newer ways of marketing as well. You've got to go do.
That's your 30 seconds done.
There we go.
Firstly, the waiter, give him an elbow and tell him to, this is an important podcast. And now he's talking to you. I love it. Oh, it's amazing. What are you on, your 8th coffee right now?
No, it was his steak cooked.
Quiet.
Day trip to High Road House. Okay, so proactive, to cut you off before you start waffling on about everything that is proactive. Steph, your 30 seconds. Give it to us.
I think if you don't already know, you need to have in an elevator pitch what you do that is different. You need to know what your competitors are not doing and do some of that. and be really slick. I think the worst agents I see, sort of, they're an estate agent, they sell houses. There's no really succinct description of what you bring to a transaction and what value you're going to add. So even if you spend a couple of afternoons a week just really honing that, I think you'll find yourself in a completely different world.
Lovely. We're big on elevator pitches. Actually, we do it all the time. I couldn't agree more. Knowing what you do and how you add value, bit naff, but you're absolutely right. What you do that's different. And if you don't have a point of difference, you are shit creek without a paddle. You must be able to do something a little bit different, even if something small that makes a difference. So great point. Matt, no pressure, big finish. 30 seconds. You could probably do it twice.
When does it start?
Go.
All right, fine. I think in terms of adding value is a good point to start. I think getting properties sale ready before they come to market. So actually getting the legal paperwork filled out. I'm a big fan of even getting some searches done. We've just tried our first one on that. That shows your value and that shows what you're doing differently. That's for the client. And for your own personal development, take advantage of all the free resources out there. Listen to podcasts, watch some YouTube stuff. There's so much stuff you can learn from. Just personal development and help your clients with the after sales process before the sale starts.
I've absolutely called it. 30 seconds. He could get it done twice. I was talking about something else, but he's managed to get two in there in 30 seconds. Sales ready. Yeah, love that. We're talking about that at the moment. Are you using any sort of service for that at the moment, Matt?
Yeah, so we're working with a company called Advanced.
Okay.
And I've got my first going through. So we've just agreed to sell on a leasehold, a flat, obviously, but I've got TA forms, I've got management pack, I've got searches. So all my buyer needs a mortgage offer, and that's it.
Brilliant. So
amazing.
The idea of this podcast is not necessarily that we push services to people, but if you're using a brilliant service and that's working well for you and it benefits your business and the consumer, then we should be talking about it and we should be highlighting it. So that's great.
The point I'm happy to make is there's loads of companies all offering similar things. I don't care who you work with someone.
Couldn't agree more.
At the very least, take out a TA6, 10 and a 7 if relevant. At the very least, you can do that without having to pay for any extra services and at least have that ready.
You know what, Steph, here, we're not going to be able to ever test this, but I'm hopeful that this podcast appeals to a slightly different demographics that would normally watch an estate agency podcast. The guys that work in, and it sounds horrible because we've got employed members in our team, so it's not that I'm against employed estate agents. But the guys who've got a couple of years experience working in an employed role, working as maybe negotiators that live at home or rent, they don't know what those forms are. They genuinely don't. There's so many agents out there that have never been through the process of buying or selling themselves, and there's a lack of interaction with all the different moving parts of the sales process when you're in a larger brand because it's taken out of your hands. They actually don't know what those forms are. So to Matt's point, education, you can go away and do some homework and it's not the most difficult thing in the world. Or this is a crazy one, tomorrow go into your branch and ask your manager, what's this, what's that, how do I do this, how do I do that? It's not that they don't want to train you, it's just they're not used to it. If you ask a question, they will help. So some really great stuff. Big finish. Every week we're going to have little bits and pieces going on. Jazz hands. My hands, look normal size on screen. Let me just see what I've got queued up. We've got two things I want to highlight. First, one thing that I saw this morning on the trade press, which really made me laugh, but I quite like it. So I'm going to share that with you guys first. If I work out how to get my computer to work. Okay, so this again will be much slicker post-production. Bear with me one sec. Okay, you guys might have seen this, being such advocates of the trade press. Here we go. Has anyone seen this yet this morning? It's a very different style of marketing. It's not marketing to the consumer. It's agent-to-agent marketing. Have you seen this?
Hi there, Kevin Keegan here, and I'm going to join Adam and his team at venues all around the UK, starting on the 13th of June up there in Edinburgh. We're going to talk about things like how I dealt with adversity in my career and how I overcame the challenges and things like that. If you're an estate agent with at least 2 years experience, then check out the venues at the link below. And I can tell you, if you turn up, I would love it.
So that was Kevin Keegan. So you couldn't hear the sound, no? Okay, good, excellent. Let's pretend. So what he was saying is that he is going on the Keller Williams recruitment tour. Just kidding, Adam Day, chill out. I'm joking. It's EXP. It's not Keller Williams. It's EXP. Growth, 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 growth. Adam is, I think, going to be on with us next week. That's a part of their recruitment drive, and I just thought that's pretty funny. He signs out by saying, if you show up, I would love it. And I'm sure we can do something quite fun with that post-production. Kevin Keegan, absolutely legend. Vish, you have no idea who he is, do you?
Sorry, no.
Okay, so they've picked they've got their avatar for who they want to recruit, and it's Kevin Keegan fans. So I can live with that. That's pretty cool. So this is not going to go down so great for you three because you can't hit it, but Watkins has sent over something, and he's going to give us. We're going to have the Watkins whimsy every week. So I'm going to play it, and you guys are going to not enjoy it so much because you can't hear it. So you're welcome.
You know, folks, a state agency is full of interesting negotiations. In fact, it's no less than a comedy show. It's like playing a game of poker, but the stakes are higher. Instead of playing with chips, we're playing with hopes. Here's something to think about. What if we infused a little bit more empathy into our negotiations? You see, when we truly understand our clients' needs and concerns, we can negotiate in a way that benefits everyone involved. It's like finding the perfect harmony for a symphony. So, my fellow agents, let's sprinkle a little bit of empathy in our negotiations and witness the transformation that our estate agency industry so richly deserves and needs.
Wow. I mean, that's powerful stuff. Again, you guys, no sound? No
You can
sound.
sort of hear that.
Sort of, yeah. So it was a really deep and meaningful piece on empathetic negotiations. I asked him to send over something funny, and this is what he came up with. This is the difficulty I have with the man. He just doesn't listen. The irony is not lost on me. I'm asking for something that's funny, and he's saying empathetic communication, listen to your client.
You wanted him to say, "F you, Jerry Lyons, I'm the king of content," or something like that.
I wanted him to say, yes. Oh, well, no, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Yeah, something abusive. I wanted him to say, who is that guy who's half a silhouette in the bottom left end of the screen sitting on Chiswick High Road? But he's right. Empathetic negotiation communication, huge part of what we do. I'm going to finish with that because Watkins, actually, let's give him a plug. Every week he produces a national property estate agency data show. And whilst I don't agree that there's necessarily a national housing market, I do completely agree that you must use the data for context around the coffee table when you have a conversation. And that allows you to appropriately see, hopefully, 3, 6, 9 months into the future, because your local market could be doing something very different to the rest of the country, and it helps you a little bit. So that's released every week. Plug in and watch him. The man is a data fiend. Sign off. Matt, Vish, Steph, this has been really, really average. Thank you so much for your contributions. Vish, in particular, you've been a freaking disaster.
I'll find a better
honestly,
place.
Where does his hair finish and the parasol start? That's the bit I've been trying to work out.
Mystery. That I won't disclose.
So thank you guys. Genuinely, hand on heart. It's been fun. I hope it's been a little bit educational. And I'm sure in the comments we're going to see absolutely nothing because no one's going to watch it. So until next time, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us some engagement. We will see you next week for episode 2. Agents Movement. Follow us on Instagram. That's where we're doing everything at the moment. And let's have a bit of fun. See you soon, guys.
Cheers.